Hey everyone, welcome to the She Interviews. I'm Jessica Parks and I am joined by my good friend Jennifer Mondragon. Hey Jen, how are you?
Hi Jess, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And Jennifer is joining us from sunny Florida. How's it going down there?
It's great. I know you guys have had a heat wave, so we're kind of like similar weather right now.
Yes, we had a terrible heat wave and now it's starting to cool off. So I'm very thankful for that. But Jen and I actually know each other from New Jersey. First, I met her sister through my sister, and I'm so happy because now I have Jennifer in my life. That's the power of networking, ladies, right? You never know who you're going to meet through who. And so I asked Jen to come and tell her story, her mom work journey story, because she's had some really interesting things that have happened leading up to right now. And but first, before we get into all of that, Jen, can you just tell everyone a little bit about who you are and what you currently do and how old your kids are?
So I am a single working mom, and I am currently in construction management. And that is a recent drastic career change I made actually when I moved relocated from Jersey to Fort Myers, Florida. And I love it because I dabble in a little bit of everything: exterior work, interior, even a lot of interior design, which is what I have a lot of fun in. And I'm so grateful for, because when I finally become a first-time homeowner, I'll be able to take care of a lot of the work in my house by myself. So that's always fun. And I am a mother of a 9-year-old little girl, Megan, and my 11-year-old son, JC. They love it in Florida. We're close to the beaches. The nice weather makes us, permits us to be outside and be a lot more active. And it's been a good positive change overall.
So you've been down there for how long now?
So actually, funny story. I transitioned over here towards the end of February. So it's been a good about 6 months, I would say, a full 6 months. But it was right in the midst when COVID hit. And COVID had already, obviously affected the Eastern Hemisphere and China, but we never thought it would get here, right? Like nothing ever touches America, or that's what we think at least. And when it started going everywhere and then like hitting here, I'm like, okay, it was right into quarantine. So, but thankfully, because I went into business with my dad, it didn't affect me as much as it would have, and I would have still been working in my previous job in Jersey.
Yeah, so this was actually kind of a big move for you but this is actually your second big move, and your first one, in my opinion, I think is even bigger. But
yeah,
this was a big move for you with kids. As a single mom with kids, you had your job, and you were actually just offered a promotion.
Yes. So I was actually offered to be groomed. I was being groomed to be the office manager of 2 urology offices for New Jersey Urology in the Clifton area. But it was more like a supervisor position in medical administration. And I was kind of like, nah, because what's the next step after this? It would have been a practice manager. Okay, the 2 clinics. Great. But I would have been forced to stay there. I wouldn't be able to grow more as much as I wanted to, because it's an office of 5 people. So how much more can you grow? Practice managers, than the surgeons, obviously. So I was like, can I be content with this? Is this what I want? Or, do I want to go in business for myself where I can choose if my kids have a school play? I don't have to ask for permission. I just work it around my schedule so I can make it work as a single mom, be there for my kids, more importantly, because I don't have somebody else to tag team with. And also have the opportunity to make as much as I want. So if I need to make more, like when my kids are in college and so forth, I have the opportunity to do so, and I think that was the biggest part about my move. Yes, the move about the location, but it was very kind of nerve-wracking, I want to say, but exciting at the same time, from moving from a salary-based employee to the employer, because especially that was tested when COVID hit, and I had to make sure I fed, a lot of families, We have about like 10 or 11 employees at a time under payroll. So I had to make sure the work was steady, even during
Right.
COVID, even during quarantine. It was like working around people letting us go into their homes when you don't want anybody coming into your home,
Right.
you know? And it was definitely a test. It was definitely like my dad was telling me, Jen, I know you came down here to come into business with me, but if you ever feel like this is too much stress, I was like, because being your own boss is, yes, it's a free financial freedom and time freedom, but it is also a lot more responsibility because you're responsible for the income of other people as well below you. So not below you, it sounds ugly, like,
Yeah.
underneath you, and you need to make sure they have a steady income as well. There's no one you can turn to. They're going to turn to you. So, and he was like, you know what? Sometimes we might just have to take a pay cut and make sure everybody's okay because we have to keep our team loyal. They are what our business thrives on. So he's like, if you need to go back to a 9 to 5 job, just tell me. And I was like, no, I didn't come to Florida just to come to Florida. I mean, I love Florida. Yes, that was a big reason why I'm down here. But I came to Florida because I wanted to make that leap. And I felt like I've always been kind of leaping back and forth since I made my first big move that we'll talk about more in a little bit. And I didn't want to do that anymore. I said, no, this is where I want to settle down my roots, more importantly, my children's roots. And this is what I want for my life. And even though it's not the best time because of COVID and whatever, if I can survive COVID, I can survive anything. But then again, if I turn back around and give up, then, can I really trust myself? Am I really capable of being a business owner? So I was just like, no, I just got to keep on doing it. And I got offered a pretty good job, even making more money than in Jersey, than in Florida. It's really hard to find. And I was really tempted to do it. But I was like, you know what? No, I just got to stick it through. And I really want to see what am I capable of. If I never put myself in that under those circumstances and that situation, I'll never find out what I am capable of.
Right. And I remember when you were making the decision to move, part of the thing that was making it difficult for you, you were torn between taking the promotion and going. And a lot of it had to do with the feedback you were getting from people that you worked with and friends and family, right? Because naturally,
Yeah.
when we're being offered a promotion or something like that, how could we say no to it, right?
Yeah, my immediate close network, there were a lot of people that were like, come on, Jen, you've been moving around a lot. Like, you made a drastic move, yes, but this is like your place, you made that big move back to the US, Virginia, Jersey, like, settle down, girl. And I'm like, and it was hard to hear that because I feel like people were doubting me, like, they're like, when is she going to stay in one place? And I was kind of self-doubting myself, and I think a lot of women in general do that. Moms do that even more because they always have the kind of speculation like whatever you do affects your kids, right? Even though you have a dad too, a lot of the times, and more on a single mom. But I think all moms in general, even when you have a spouse, it's like on the mom, like, oh my God, so you convince your husband to move over here? How about your kids? Like it kind of falls a lot on us, right? So they're like, come on, you're moving your kids again? Seriously? I'm like, you know what? I have gone through a big whole process during my motherhood, from becoming a married mom to a single mom, from becoming, mom living abroad with my kids to back in the US. That's a whole, ordeal.
Yeah, I want to talk
But
about
every
that.
time I made a move, it was for the better for my kids. And I was striving for something better. And things don't always go as planned, but every time something would happen, I would somehow end up in a better situation than I was before. I made the best out of it, and I thrived. I tried, like, really to just come out on top, And if anything, I was like, I'm not doing anything negative for my kids. I'm teaching them that you have to make the best out of every situation, and that you just don't simply like give up. If you get kicked and you fall, you pick yourself up and you just make it work. Because I have them, and I know that in their hearts, if you ask them, I can honestly say that they'll say that they're proud of their mom, because she always does pretty good for herself. I end up turning things around. Like, of course I made mistakes, but it's what I do after making those mistakes that really I can say I'm proud of. And I know with no doubt in my mind that my kids are proud of me and as well. So I was like, if I make this move to Florida, it's not going to be for the, for anything negative. I know I'm going to make something even more positive come out of this. So, that's what kind of gave me the confidence, like, let's just go ahead and do it.
Yeah. And I think that's great because a lot of times when we move, it's usually because we're running away from something. Like, oh, maybe things will be better if I go here, or I just want to get away from this negativity, so let me go here. And then, there's always the saying, wherever you go, there you are. Like, you could be moving,
Mm-hmm.
all your problems and all that with you. But really, you're telling a story of moving, but they're strategic moves. They're strategic moves where you're moving to something instead of away from something, right? Like, you left a promotion to go pursue the unknown and like dig into it.
Yeah.
Right. So I love that. But let's talk about your first pivotal moment as a parent, which I still even couldn't ever picture myself in that situation. But you were living in Costa Rica, right?
Yes, I was. And
you were living in Costa Rica and you got married there, or you were already married here and then you guys moved there?
No, I met my children's father in Costa Rica, and we got married there.
Tell us that story.
So that's an emotional topic for me, but I think, like, and I told my father this, like, someday I'm gonna really get to it and just like tell my story, because I feel like a lot of women that have been through this maybe haven't reacted the way I have, but it's probably because they haven't had a lot of positive people around them, and even though in my hardest of times, and I think that was a hard time for me, it was really dark, and I can honestly tell you, I'm obviously not the same person I was that came out of that dark moment, and I made mistakes, and obviously I found myself in a hard situation, but I grew so much because of it, and I become such a better person because of it, that I I now know, no matter what happens, and this is for any mom out there and that's going through divorce, which is always pretty hard. And when the father becomes from being 100% present to 100% absent, what to do? Because first of all, you're hit with the financial, like, what? And then you're hit with the emotional also, like, responsibility of bringing your kids and having to, like, how do I deal with all these questions and heartache and everything, for them, because you want to be their pillar and you want to be a positive pillar for them, right? And I was a kid result from divorce, and I remember a lot of the things my parents did, and I didn't want to do that,
right,
for my kids.
Right.
So I was like, okay, well, I always said I would do things differently. I'm like, great. The first thing I said I would do differently is never get divorced. Like, I think we all say that, right? When we're like children of divorce.
Yeah.
And like, when I get married, I want this person to be forever, so my kids don't know what that is. But it's hard. It's hard. In general, not only marriage, relationships are hard, even with family, but it happened. My ex-husband, cheated on me, and that for me is just unforgivable. It could be forgivable, but he, besides the cheating, he wasn't there anymore. He wasn't somebody I can count on. He wasn't someone, more importantly, my children could count on. So I'm like, why? You can't have one person fighting for a relationship, and also I need a parent that's present for my kids. And if he's not going to be present, then I guess I need to go back home to US, where all my family and my network's at, so they can be around my kids, like, and they can not fill the void, but at least I would have a support system for them, more importantly, emotionally, to overcome what I was going through. So that's when I decided, like, okay, it's time to move on. I was the one that insisted, like, I wanted to move on and I wanted to return home. And that's one thing. And one of the biggest things that, the few things that I actually thank my ex for. One is my kids. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have them. And number two is for letting me leave.
Yeah.
because as he may have a lot of mistakes, but deep down in his heart, he knew that it was the best thing for his kids and me. And he knew how miserable I was, over there with him, and that I really needed that to move on. And he let me have that, because legally I wouldn't be able to take the kids out if he didn't sign, and give me that. Yeah. So we moved anyways from Costa Rica to the US. I still remember that plane ride. It was 5.5 hours. My kids were crying.
How old were they?
My daughter was turning 5 and my son was turning 7.
Oh my God.
And they didn't know that my ex cheated on me. They didn't know that it was with somebody close to me. They didn't know that, their dad didn't want to be present or help me anymore. And I didn't want to tell them, like, we're leaving because you have a bad father. Because of that's something that I dealt with a lot of bashing from both sides during the divorce. And my parents, I'm like, I'm never going to do that to my kids. That's not healthy. That can't be healthy for anybody, because they identify themselves with their parents. So you can't bash the parent without in sort of a way bashing them. So I was just like, sweetie, I know there's so many things I wish I can tell you. And I was crying. I still remember this. Literally, it's so emotional for me, but it's true. There's so many things that I wanted to tell them, but I couldn't. And I was like, when the time comes, Mom will have a mature one-on-one with you guys, and she'll explain why I'm doing what I'm doing. But just know that I love you and this is for the best. And it was. And over time, my kids' sadness, they had a lot of resentment towards me.
Yeah.
They later found out by themselves, and I wish they didn't, but they did. But it was kind of positive too, because I think in that moment, they stopped blaming me and they knew why I did what I did. And now you would speak to my kids and they're like, my mom is so brave. My mom is the best. And because of her, we have a better future, And I have turned their story and my story completely around.
Yeah.
Where it was all for the better. And I'm just grateful overall. And a lot of people perceive that, even in my family, like running away, like, okay, you're going to get divorced. Okay, you're leaving Costa Rica because of what happened and you're going back to the US. Like, no, I saw it as an opportunity to live life the way I wanted to live it.
Yeah.
No matter what people would think. And I knew that I wasn't doing it because of any selfish or cowardly reason. I was doing it because of my kids and I wanted better for them.
And it's so wonderful that you are able to make that decision and stick to it, because those decisions are scary. And when we have to make scary decisions, we tend to ask people to their opinion because we need reassurance. And when they tell us something different, it can make us fall apart, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, no, like you just knew in your heart of hearts that this was the right thing to do, that this is not what you signed up for. This is not the quality of life that you wanted for your kids. And you didn't see anything changing from him. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, man, this really hits home with me because my kids are, I got a 3-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 6-year-old. So when you said a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old, like I'm just picturing my kids with, where they are intellectually.
Yeah.
If I said like, hey, we're leaving daddy, like, I don't even know how I would even be able to do that myself.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that you were able to, I get there's different circumstances. I'm just saying, knowing that what it would do to them, not taking them away because their dad's great or their dad's not great, just knowing what it would do to them. I don't know if I would have the strength. So the fact that you like found that strength is just incredible. So is there anything in that process, the 2 times that you have moved, that you would have done something different, or you're just like, you're 100%?
I had an opportunity. Actually, I would have done things. There's one thing I would have changed, and I say it, and I think about it every day. And my father, it's like the annoying "I told you so," Jen, And I love him, and he's so wise and smart. And I was like, Dad, I'm sorry. And I just hugged him. I was like, I'm sorry. I know you were trying to give me the best advice, but I just didn't want a divorce, And I had the opportunity to leave my ex-husband already being in the US. because we had come here. I had gotten a really good job when my daughter was 2 and my daughter was 1.5 and my son was 3.5 years old. We lived here for a year in the U.S. My ex-husband at the time, he didn't want to be here anymore. He's like, I'm going back to Costa Rica. And I'm like, no, I really don't want to go back. And it was a back and forth. And finally, he's like, Jen, I'm not happy here. I want to go back. And he gave me the ultimatum. You can stay here with the kids, but I'm going back. It's like, if you want to still be together, you have to go back over there because I'm not staying.
And in hindsight,
he left the ball in my court. He left the ball in my court. And my father was like, if a man who's willing to do that doesn't love his family, he's not putting his family first. Not that he doesn't love his family, but he's not putting his family first. He's putting his own needs first. That's not the kind of partner you need, you know? And he's like, because you put 200%. And that's just how I am with everything, you know? And he's like, he's not putting any effort. So what are you doing really? What marriage are you saving? I'm like, I'm just trying to save a marriage because of my family and my kids. Like, what am I going to do? I don't want to be the one to tear it up. That means that if he goes and I don't go with him, I'm going to tell my kids, we're not with daddy because mommy decided not to go with him. Like what you know, they were small, they were toddlers. And then I didn't want to do it. And I just went with what he said, and I went back to Costa Rica. And I'm like, how much easier would it have been if they were a lot younger? I was already in the U.S. Come on, like I would have been a homeowner years ago. I would have like been so ahead of my journey. But I'm like, you know what? Things happen the way they happen a reason. I didn't have that emotional strength then. I wasn't the Jennifer I was 4 years ago when I finally made the decision to leave him and come here. You know, I had to grow, I had to mature, I had to know better. And it happened when I was ready. And that's how it is for everyone. You make a move when you're ready, not when anybody else is ready.
100%. Yeah, exactly. You wouldn't have been able to learn. I mean, hindsight's always 20/20, right? Like you wouldn't have been able to learn the lessons that you learned. And how could you have known at that point that that's really, you know, that was a red flag, but like, how could you really have known that? I mean, our dads know that because they're, you know, my dad always told me, I forgot what you didn't learn yet. So, but like, I still needed to, I get that, but I still need to learn it for myself. Right.
Yeah. See, I love your dad. Your dad's like a lot like mine. He's so like business savvy. He has that charisma. And they're like so wise. Like, I'm like, oh man, it's true. You guys they know a lot, for obviously they lived a lot, you know, more than us. And I guess we need to pay attention sometimes. And, you know, I do more now. I have a better relationship with my father again now, because I've always been like, had a close relationship. But of course, he didn't like my ex-husband that whole time period, which was like a time span of 10 years.
Yeah.
We had a rocky relationship. But then after that, we regrew our relationship. And now it's like, when my dad tells me something, I really like listen to him, because I'm like, geez, like this guy, he really has like these little gems of knowledge that I want to remember so I can share them with my kids today or tomorrow, you know? And it's like I'm listening like little people like, yeah, okay. And I'm like, I'm gonna be 35 in September. Come on.
Well, but I mean, have the maturity too now. You have the maturity to listen and all that. But I mean, you bring up a good point, right? When we're younger, and sometimes we don't want to take our parents' parents' advice. But I think a lot of it is also, we just need to live our own lives. Like that's something that I think about with my kids, and as they grow up, like even if I have a very strong opinion, I need to be respectful of the fact that they need to learn hands-on their own life lessons.
Yeah.
And when we learn enough hard life lessons, we become a little bit more open to listening to the wisdom that other people have for us. But I think it's especially hard to listen to. I mean, my parents are divorced too, right? So I think it's especially hard to listen to our parents, and, you know, no offense to our parents that might be listening to this, but it's hard to listen to them when they've gone through the divorce, or even if they're going through the divorce, because I remember me thinking like, your relationship is a mess. So how could you even give me, like, how could you even try to sneak into my relationship?
Yeah. And you know what? Kids, we can be cruel when we're like, you know, over 18 to like 25. We think we know it all. We think 100%. We're gonna like conquer the world. We look good, we feel good, nothing hurts in your body. So you feel like invincible. You can eat whatever and like nothing happens. You don't get indigestion. You don't gain pounds. You're just like you can take on the world. So when they try to tell us something, we're kind of cruel, like, yeah, whatever. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. That's what my father says. Like, yeah, whatever. That's what he used to tell me all the time. I feel it. I feel it with my kids now. Like, that's so annoying. You're like, hey, listen, I kind of do know what I'm talking about here. But
yeah.
But he said he learned a really good lesson with me. And it was like that, like you said, everybody has to learn and create their own path. Nobody can forge it for you. But if you're a good parent, you're there for your kids always. You give like good lessons and good advice to them, and you raise them right. Eventually your kids go back to the path and they
Yeah, they'll
return
remember.
to of how you brought them up. So that's the important thing.
Yeah. And so right now, Jen, let's talk about the present really quick, as far as like being a mom and a single mom even, and juggling that with career. Because right now you have some goals, right?
Yeah, definitely. So now I recently came into construction management. I am getting my license for a general contractor, which is exciting.
Yeah.
And that's when I officially have ownership, with my father's company, because he really paved the way for me. And but this will be taking it to a whole nother level, and I'm really excited about it.
So your goal is to take over the family business.
Yes, but it's also more to expand, and that's where I'm kind of having a struggle. Is how much growth do I want? Am I ready for? Because as a single parent, and even as a parent in general, I think all moms, we have this syndrome. Like, we want to work from home, but then how much do you want to work from home? How busy do you want to be? Like, because if you're working from home, you're really not present then. You're like in your office. I'm like, okay, guys, like, don't come in the room. Mommy's working right now. And then you're like, how many hours? Sometimes you can be 7 hours in your home office. And then you feel like when you finally go see the kids, they're like in bed sleeping. You're like, wow, I didn't even spend time with them today.
Right.
And like, maybe my daughter was asking me to, make Play-Doh with her, and my son was asking me to look at his game, and he wanted to play a round of Mario Kart, and I didn't do any of those things. Or they wanted to play a board game with me because they love board games, and I didn't get to that day. So I feel like, okay, I had a successful business day, but I had not a so successful mom day, and then you feel like a terrible mom. But then when you like the next day, I'm like with them and something, and I'm like also multitasking, taking calls, sending emails and contracts. I went to go see a customer like in Naples, which is like 45 minutes to 50 minutes away from me, and then I had to spend time with a customer, come back. But then maybe I forgot to I don't know. I was late on payroll because it was after 5 o'clock, and I get a call from my father. It's like, Jen, you process payroll, right? Remember, it's 5:10 already. I'm like, shoot, I did it. And I delivered as a mom. I kind of delivered business wise, but then I'm like, I missed that very important thing. So now it's going to delay like 2 business days because it's over the weekend. I'm like,
Yeah. So I think that's the dilemma with work from home, right? Like, moms think like, oh, if I get this like work from home thing, I can have this flexible lifestyle. I could be there for my kids. I could be working. And it never works out that way, because your brain is constantly split, right? You can't mentally be in 2 different places at the same exact time.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't matter if you're working home. It doesn't matter if you're working outside the home. You can't be completely present in these 2 spheres of life at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so that's what brings me to my dilemma. Is like, okay, so we are doing well, obviously, because it's pushing me towards my other goal, which is like purchasing my first home, which I'm really excited about because it's for my kids, and I've always wanted this, and I'm finally able to do it, and I'm doing it on my own, most importantly. So I'm like, this is great. But then if I get more, it's obviously going to be even harder to control,
Yeah.
And obviously there are ways to maneuver around that. You can get an office secretary, so you're not doing it all. You're delegating tasks. So there are things I can still do, and I know that. It's just really getting in order and like taking it little by little and seeing how much I can kind of juggle and balance. And that's my biggest issue, is like juggling, like how much time of what. And even with my father, he asked me this question, like, Jen, what do you want out of this business? Because there's a huge contract. We can expand it to other states, but then you're going to have to fly out, on a weekend. And necessarily the kids, I'm like, I'm going to take them with me, but they're going to be stuck in a hotel room bored, like while I'm working and everything and going to the job sites and closing contracts. And like, how much do I really want? It's hard, because
something's got to give. Something's got to give somewhere.
My career woman self is like, yeah, I want to do it. This is what I've always wanted, right? But then my mom woman side says like, no, I want to be there for them. I want to take my daughter to ballet. I want to take my son to soccer games. And like, what if he wants to be on an away team? That's going to be even more time. Like, and I want him to have what I didn't really get to have growing up. I want them to have that. So it's like, I just got to juggle so I have enough, live a comfortable life so I can do all the things I want to do for them. But I don't want to push it where they're not going to have me around. I'm going to have to pay basically somebody at home to spend time with my kids instead of me spending time with them.
Right.
So it's hard.
Jen, I think that you are speaking to, a gazillion moms out there right now that are struggling with the same thing, especially single moms, right? Because everything is on you and you can't split yourself, right? Like it's not like, the kids can have quality time with one parent while the other one's, out there, on the grind. So, but I really commend you for making tough decisions, even though. Oh, okay. I thought there was some feedback. There's just someone talking in the background. I really commend you for those decisions that you've made, as tough as they are, because it's so easy for us to retract from them and just keep going on with life like the status quo. And you are constantly putting yourself out of your comfort zone. You admittedly have said, I haven't figured out all of the answers yet. I'm still trying to figure out that balance between, mom life and work life. But it's a work in progress for all of us, right?
Yeah.
Before we get off really quick, what is some advice that you can give to a mom that is struggling, trying to find that balance where they are able to gain momentum in their career as an entrepreneur, even in corporate America, whatever, but still be with their kids? What is something that you found that has helped you to get a little bit of balance when you can?
Yes. So I used to be terrible in this, but I've had a lot of people around me, and I've spoken to a lot of people that seem to, deal with it well. Jess, you're one of them. I've spoken to you about this a lot. How do you do it? Because I feel like you have 3 boys, and they're boys. Come on. It's a handful, and a husband, which is a relationship. So you have to have like, relationship time. And you back then were running a newspaper. You were doing so many things. You're always doing so many things. I was like, how do you do it? And you're like, I kind of just have my schedule, and you kind of showed me. And then the same thing with my father. I'm like, how do you like run the business? And I see like you have everything already organized. He's like, Jen, every day, the night before, I lay out what I'm going to do for the rest of the day. Yeah. So I don't leave anything for chance. Right. So if I want to do something special, I see where I have a window, and I already work it, and I am strict with my time. Okay, I have to wrap up. I have to do this. If you know that like, hey, I would like to be on the phone for 15 minutes, but I'm kind of having to run to something else. Let me call you at the end of the day where it's not going to mess up my schedule. Then you'll do that. Whereas if you don't have a schedule, you might go on a call with a friend, 20 minutes, get entertained, and then you're behind. It messes up the rest of the day when you could have easily done that at nighttime when you're home relaxing and you've done everything for the day. So that has helped me a lot, and even with family, my sister will call me. She's like, hey, Jen, I'm like, hey, listen, babe, I'm doing something, but can you like touch base at 7:30? And I'll put her in there so she doesn't call. I'll remember to call her, you know, but I will do what I have to. I stick to what I have to do. I'm like, no play. Because why? That my father told me, your time is your kids' time. So how valuable is your children's time to you? So if you want to come home and eat a meal with them, sit down, we're like starting to, give thanks before we eat. And it's a special thing where we each give thanks about something during our day.
I love
And
that.
we say something like nice about it, like, like whatever happened. And it's just a nice family time to spend. And now that I'm with my dad, it's fun with him too, So I'll cook, the kids will set the table. It's this whole thing. So that's like I cherish this time. So in order to do that, I have to organize everything else with them so I can still have that, and for everybody, it could be something different. It's not, sometimes I get to have breakfast with them, but I won't be able to do that nice, neat dinner time. Sometimes like breakfast will be a definite no, because I'll be out of the house early, but dinner, I'm going to make it happen. I might prepare the meal the day before if I know I have a lot going on. So then I just have to kind of reheat, prepare a quick salad, something, some lemonade or iced tea, and then delegate the task. Delegating tasks is so helpful. And like, you can do it. You don't need to wait for your kids to be that grown. They can be small, and you can start telling them like, okay, we're going to have some fruits. Charlie, you can, wash the grapes for mama, and then have it. And it kind of, it makes them feel valuable, like they have a role in the family. So I do delegate tasks with them, little things, nothing like too big. And I do plan out my day ahead. So do that, and that would help so much.
Yeah, that is such great feedback to do the schedule, because I got, and I'm really glad to hear that you've been implementing that and it's been working for you, because I swear every single successful person that I know that is part of the regiment, it is being kind of like a freak of nature about your calendar. So I love that advice that you have, and I'm glad that you've implemented it. It's been working. Jen, this has been awesome. I know you, but I really never actually got to hear your story in depth from, life in Costa Rica. And, I already thought you were an amazing woman, but, just hearing that now, I've really been inspired. And I hope the women that have been watching us have been inspired by your strength, and now feel like they can have the courage to make the decisions that they know that they need to be making in the pit of their stomach, but they're afraid to. Don't be afraid to make those decisions. Make those decisions, because you're going to come out the other side a different person, and you're going to be better for it. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us tonight on the She Interviews. We will see you next time.
Thank you, Jess, so much. Have a great time, guys. Thanks for having me.